As the finale draws to a close, HBO's highly anticipated fantasy series House of the Dragon is building up the momentum for what seems to be a dramatic finale. And, speaking of the latest episode, for today's video, we'll be reviewing House of the Dragon's episode 9. A word of caution, major spoilers ahead, but if you want to know more, then you better keep watching today's video if you don't want to miss out on the latest. So without further ado, let's get into House of the Dragon's 9th episode titled The Green Council. We travel back to Westeros for the penultimate episode of the first season of House of the Dragon, marking the conclusion of one of the explosive beginning of a new one. The king is no more, who then is to follow? That is the question that looms large over this season's penultimate episode, as Viserys the Peaceful's passing signifies the end of an era in more ways than one. After the heartbreaking farewell supper at the family table last week, Paddy Considine's well-intentioned king left, which means that the unsettling Cold War between the potential heirs is about to grow very heated very quickly. The Iron Throne is vacant and its throne room is silent as we begin with startling series of shots showing the Red Keep in darkness and fog. Priority 1 for Olivia Cook's Alicent and her father Rhys Ifans' Otto Hightower is to block knowledge of Viserys' death from spreading until they've had a chance to win the crown for Alicent's eldest son, Aegon, who is played by Tom Glyn Carney. It's also entailed relegating Eve's best, Rhaenyra, to her apartments until she's pledged fealty, along with the servants and any other nobility who refuse to submit. And let's not forget Lord Caswell, who has been adamant in rendering services to Princess Rhaenyra since early on in the series. The pitiful Lord Caswell, portrayed by Paul Hickey, attempts deception by bending the knee and then trying to escape the castle. However, he's detected and executed thanks to the horrible Larys Strong, played by Matthew Needham. In the meantime, Lord Larys says that he will work for both Otto and Alicent, once more scheming his way into the positions of authority. However, he very immediately turns on Otto by telling Alicent all of her father's secrets in exchange for, being promoted to perv over her bare feet. At least now we are all aware of what he will receive. But for this episode, we finally got to see Alicent make a stand against her father for once in her life. Otto's motivated by his desire for power, while Alicent is motivated by her sincere but misguided assumption that everything is being done at Viserys' request. Alicent differs from her counterpart in George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood in one important way. She permits the Silent Sisters to properly care for the king's body rather than letting him rot, while she sends signals to her allies to prepare for the coronation. This Alicent still tries to safeguard Emma Darcy's Rhaenyra as she usurps Aegon's position of power while having some sympathy for her husband and even her wastrel kid. She opposes her father as well, saying that it is not too fastidious to be prepared to go to any extent short of outright murder. Rhaenyra is required to draw attention to the inconsistencies of Alicent's position, which involves toiling in men's shadows rather than having the capacity to assume power herself. Interestingly, she's now fully dressed in Tudor fashion. Is she a rumored con artist like Anne Boleyn's image in pop culture, a despot like Queen Mary, or a military leader like Queen Elizabeth I? Time will tell. In contrast to true Game of Thrones fashion, House of the Dragon's penultimate episode is a far cry from its predecessors, since we all know how action-packed the second to the latest episode of the seasons are. What is certain is that stealing the throne won't be simple. One reason is that the small council is initially split on the issue. Bill Patterson's character, Lord Beesbury, properly notes what they're doing is against the law. To Alicent's dismay, Jefferson Hall's portrayal of Tyler Lannister has plainly been planning the entire relationship with Otto and Paul Kennedy's Lord Jasper Wilde. Additionally, Kurt Eggewan's Grand Maester Orwell is not against the plot. Unfortunately for Beesbury, Cole reacts violently to Beesbury's position of the coup and kills him in a way that may or may not be murdered. But in George R.R. Martin's Blood and Fire, it is unmistakable murder. The Kringard captain, played by Graham McTavish, Sir Harold Westerling, is finally acknowledged by the program, and he's given a task by ordering Cole to the ground before leaving the conference. He's pretty much the only one that Otto and company don't just halt dead in their tracks when they see. Viserys' alleged wishes are one potential source of legitimacy, but with Alicent present to hear them, they won't persuade everyone. The important thing is to crown Aegon as quickly as possible. The coronation ceremony will further place the issue beyond the question. The only issue is that Aegon is missing the flea bottom. Otto sends Sir Auric Cargill and his brother Sir Eric Cargill, who are respectively portrayed by twins Luke and Elliot Tittensor, on the same errand as Alicent sends Aemon Targaryen, played by Kristen Cole and Ewan Mitchell. Auric is in favor, Eric is less so, especially after visiting the child fighting pit that is one of Aegon's favorite hangouts. The twin knights discuss the wisdom of installing the outlandish creep Aegon on the throne in private. A pit indeed, where kids are fighting while nuclear shitheads like Aegon observe and occasionally father children outside of marriage. I know I'm not the only one who feels like this place ought to be set on fire, and Otto's men accomplish just that a little while later. This is due to the White Worm, Mysaria, played by Sonoya Mizuno, who is already aware of the king's passing. And based on what we saw, Alicent's lady-in-waiting may have alerted the White Worm to what had happened earlier by lighting her lamp in her window. Her deal is that as an exchange for a pledge to Otto will stop the youngster from being abused, Mysaria provides assistance in locating Aegon. The union between Otto and Mysaria appears to portend difficulties for practically all of their adversaries in the future. As the searchers get close to Aegon, there is a struggle for his possession. Before the errant heir is brought back to face his own coronation, Aegon wishes to flee and there is a fierce conflict. Alicent tries to use her custody of him to make Cole the Kingsguard commander and to preserve Rhaenyra's life. Otto maintains his independence. With the crown on his head, the gold cloaks around him, and his new subjects shouting, Aegon feels a little happy, but he doesn't get to enjoy his independence for very long. They become separated in the masses being hardened to the dragon pit for the coronation, and Sir Eric decides to leave the green side and release Rhaenyra along the way. She decides to follow the crowd and attempts to flee on Dragonback. Therefore, the spectacular appearance of her mount, Melis, the Red Queen, from beneath the large floor of the dragon pit, serves as the coronation ceremony's high point. While it appears for one wonderful moment that Rhaenys, appearing like the queen who should have been rather than the queen who never was, would put an end to the conflict, her escape kills many innocent bystanders and one of the royal family. Rhaenys decided not to burn the group of them all alive and instead simply flies away, disregarding the devastation she's left behind, even though Alicent is horrified and is protecting her son's corpse with her own. I hope that doesn't metaphorically come back to bite anyone. Melis appeared to be able to bite someone. Though possibly a dragon rampage is close enough, it's a departure from the Game of Thrones' subsequent tradition of having a major combat in the second to last episode. Presumably, Rhaenyra will learn about the passing of her father and the coronation of her half-brother next week, at which point the dragons will truly start flying. There will be no one safe during the civil conflict known as Dance of Dragons. Now that all this has been said, here's our verdict on House of the Dragon's latest episode. The Game of Thrones spin-off series, House of the Dragon, got off to a great, well-cast start with its debut. This has a tone and message that is very similar to its predecessors, but it also introduces intriguing new characters and sets up a struggle for dominance centered on a likable, weak-willed monarch right away. Dragons, inbreeding, and hostility are further problems. Good to be back in treacherous Westeros, but of course we cannot talk about the most recent episode without praising Eve's Best's stellar performance as Rhaenys. The Targaryen historical account of Fire and Blood, the author George R.R. Martin's primary source, does not mention Rhaenys' stunt at Aegon's coronation. Rhaenys can avert the start of the forthcoming civil war over succession. Ryan Condal, the co-showrunner and co-creator of the series, were anxious to keep the armor a secret until the point. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, director Claire Kilner noted that they wanted Rhaenys to be rising like a phoenix from the ashes. And on that note, we're going to end today's episode about House of the Dragons Episode 9 recap. Are you excited to watch the finale? Tell us what you think will happen in the comment section below. Before you go, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel with the notification bell on for more videos just like these, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.